Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to create and use a basic custom function in Power Query. It's going to be a pretty simple example, and it's just going to demonstrate how to define a function that requires some parameters and how to use this function in other queries. Now this technique could be the foundation for other queries that you can use in Power Query for Excel. You can do a lot more powerful things in it, but this is just going to show the basic example of how we can create and use a basic custom function. We have a table here that lists sales invoices, and we have our quantity, unit price, and unit cost. What is the profit out of this? It would be equal the unit price, I'll put that in parentheses, minus the unit cost, and multiply it by the quantity sold. Right, and so we have a profit a little over $480. Let me drag the fill handle down here to copy the formula down. You see we have our different profits for each of the different invoices. So this is going to be my validation check here. Now to create a basic function in Power Query, we're going to start out with a blank query and simply enter the M code from scratch. Now Power Query records all of its actions and steps using the M language. And we can leverage that to extend the capabilities to create our custom functions. Now, what we're doing is basically nothing more than creating a query and manipulating the code for our own purposes. Let me go into the Power Query window, go to Data, and incidentally, this is on Excel 2016, where Power Query is already in there. If you have previous versions of Excel 2010 or 2013, you're going to have to download the Power Query add-on and enable it. But in Excel 2016, it's already there under the Data tab. And under the Data tab, what we're going to do is we're going to have a new query. We're going to show new query. We're going to click on new query, and from file, new query, and from other sources, and it's going to be a blank query. So we're going to start a query from new. Once I click on that, the query window is going to come up, and what I need to do is go into the advanced editor to start creating the new query using the M language. Once I click on the advanced editor window opens up, and we don't need these other things. We just need the let word, and we're going to write this query from scratch. I'm going to type profit here, and this is the name of the function, and profit's going to equal these parameters. I'm going to pull in 3 parameters. The first is going to be price. It doesn't really matter what order it is, basically, but you just have to define the parameters. So it's going to be price, cost, and quantity. And that's going to be followed by equal and less than sign, and it's going to indicate what code is this function is going to be comprised of. What are the steps? So what are the steps? It's basically price minus cost times quantity. So I'm going to do price minus cost in parentheses, and then multiply it by the quantity. Whoops, spell that correctly, quantity. Right? So it's a very basic calculation. And then I'm going to follow that by closing this particular function. Let profit equals that, the parameters with the steps, and we're going to close it with the profit, and that's the function name. Click done, and now you're going to have this window that says enter the parameters. Well, there's really nothing to enter right now because I'm going to use this in another query. Click close and load. What it's going to do is it's going to have the workbook queries window open, and you will notice now that there's a query here, but this is a function, and this is a function. You can see that f of x shows up. Now we created a function. We wanted to apply to this table to generate a profit column here. I'm going to go under data, click on get and transform. We will be in this group, get and transform, and we want to get it from a table. So this is going to be our table here. I have a cell within the range of data that I want to turn into a table selected here. So I'll just go ahead and click on from table. It's going to identify that range of cells as a potential table, create a table out of it. It indicates my table of headers, which is the first line here. Click OK, and it will open up the query editor. You'll see that it turned it into a table because we have our table formatting here. Let me bring this back up here. And now I have the exact data here. I want to create an additional column here using that function. So I go to add column, and we have an invoke custom function because I created a custom function. So I'll click on that, and it's going to bring up another window. And here I can give the column name. So I'll just call it sales profit. And it recognized, if I click this drop down, it recognized there is a query there. Oh, I forgot to call it something. Let me cancel that first. Get out of that and discard this. Let me call this, instead of query 1, which is kind of not a great name, right click, let me give this a name. So I'm going to rename it, call it function profit. So at least we know what it is. Right click enter, and now let me go back and here, go to data and from table and bring back my table and add a column. So I'm going to add a column here, go to add column, invoke custom function, and it will, let me type sales profit here, and under the function query this should show up with the new name, function profit. So if I click on function profit, it will give me those parameters that I was asking for earlier. And we see that we have our little drop down here, which is going to take from the column name. It already selected it for the first one. So that selected my drop down here. That's the profit, that's the price, so we'll select unit price. Here you can enter in data here, but the drop down, we're going to take it from the column of our table from here. And so that's going to be cost, unit cost here. And quantity, I'm going to click the drop down, take a column name from the table up here, and the quantity is going to be the quantity here. Click OK, and it's going to calculate and give me my data here. Go back to home, and I want to get out of this query editor window. I'll keep the name here, table 4. You can, it's probably good to give it a name. Maybe I'll call this revised table, and click close and load. And I can click close and load, and it's going to put it onto a new worksheet. But if I click close and load here, I have some selections what I can do. So if I click close and load to, it's going to give me the option of where I want to put it. Otherwise, it'll just create a new worksheet, and I want to put it here so I can compare it. I want to have it load as a table, and not in a new worksheet, but the existing worksheet. I want to put it here in this sheet, probably in cell A12. So I'll just type A12. Click load, and it's going to load it into A12 here. And you can notice now that it's loaded it as a table. You see our profit here is the same here, right? So that's the way that we can use a custom function in Power Query. Now this is a very basic example, but it kind of highlights how easy it is to create it. Now using a custom function, what it does is it enables you to create more interactive type of queries. So you can give this sheet to somebody else, and it could be more complicated in terms of its use, like maybe going out to the web to go look for things and bringing back information. So look for more videos in the future where I'll show you how to use this particular feature of creating a custom function to create some more sophisticated type of queries using Power Query. Hope this helps. Thanks for watching.